imagine you launch like a tech startup.
Yeah.
And you have this one really quirky product, a gimmick, really.
Right.
And overnight, it just goes unfathomably, hysterically viral. You are literally everywhere.
The ultimate dream scenario.
Yeah, exactly. The product is flying off the proverbial shelves, you're making money hand over fist, and you're gracing the covers of every magazine. It sounds amazing. But there is a massive hidden downside to this kind of overnight explosion.
Oh, for sure.
The entire world now thinks that one single gimmick is literally all you are capable of doing. They put you in a very specific, very restrictive box.
Yeah, they pigeonhole you.
Right. So the question becomes, how do you pivot the entire company to avoid the total bankruptcy of your reputation when that viral trend eventually, dies down?
I mean, that is one of the most difficult maneuvers in any industry, frankly. But it's particularly perilous in the entertainment business.
Oh, definitely.
Because the public essentially takes ownership of your image. There's this psychological phenomenon, it's akin to the endowment effect, really, at play with global audiences. When they discover you in a highly specific context, especially something that generates, like, hysterical fandom.
The screaming in the streets kind of fandom?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Their brains actually create a rigid neural pathway associating your face with that singular emotional response. So breaking that association, it requires a deliberate, almost aggressive rewiring of audience expectations.
Which is exactly why we are looking at this stack of career analysis notes and recent industry news today. It reads less like a standard pop culture retrospective and much more like a masterclass in career architecture and, well, strategic reinvention.
Right.
Because this month, May 2026, Robert Pattinson turns 40, and his trajectory from being catapulted into this blinding, chaotic stratosphere of global fame as a teenage vampire nearly 2 decades ago.
Wow, 20 years.
I know, right? But going from that to becoming a bona fide cinematic mogul with an estimated net worth of $100 million, it provides this perfect blueprint for dismantling restrictive typecasting.
It really does. Because history shows us time and time again that for most actors, that level of early hysterical typecasting is a complete career death sentence.
Yeah, you just fade away.
Or you get stuck, the usual Hollywood machinery kicks in, and the industry tries to squeeze every last drop of revenue out of that specific persona.
Yeah.
So the standard playbook for an actor in that position is to, sign these massive multi-picture deals that essentially trap them in generic, big-budget action hero roles.
Right. The studios want to capitalize on the existing fame.
Exactly. They hand you scripts where you essentially play a slightly different version of the character the audience already loves. You just become a recognizable commodity used to sell tickets rather than an artist trusted to build new characters from the ground up.
And the incredible thing is how systematically he rejected that exact playbook. Like, instead of taking the easy 8-figure paychecks for generic studio fare, he completely bypassed all the traditional Hollywood leading man tropes. To really understand his immense financial and critical leverage right now in 2026, we have to look at how he actively dismantled his own initial market value to rebuild it on a completely different foundation.
Yeah, he tore it down to the studs.
He really did. He aligned himself almost exclusively with prestigious independent studios, specifically A24 and, these visionary directors.
And that's brilliant because he utilized his massive global recognition as a form of currency to get complex, challenging independent films greenlit.
Right, because financing is everything.
It's the ultimate hurdle in the indie film world.
Yeah.
Investors want to guarantee that people will actually, go watch this weird avant-garde art film. So by attaching his name, a name recognized by hundreds of millions of people globally, to these obscure, highly artistic scripts, he instantly solved the financing problem for those directors.
He became like a patron of avant-garde cinema.
Precisely. Using the blinding spotlight of his early fame to illuminate projects that otherwise would have never, ever been made.
And that long-term strategy of prioritizing visionary collaboration over easy commercial cash grabs, it just resulted in a massive, undeniable win last month.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so in April 2026, we saw the release of The Drama. It's a romantic black comedy where he stars alongside Zendaya. And honestly, the financial mechanics behind this release are staggering. The film grossed $122 million worldwide.
Which is huge.
Massive. But it was made on a modest $28 million budget. Achieving that kind of multiplier on a mid-budget movie in modern Hollywood is incredibly rare.
Well, the ratio of budget to box office is really the true measure of power in the modern studio system.
Right.
We often hear about movies grossing $1 billion, but if those movies cost $300 million to make and then another $150 million to market, the actual profit margin is terrifyingly slim.
Yeah, you're barely breaking even at that point.
Yeah.
Exactly. So a $28 million budget that returns $122 million. That represents immense, secure profitability. It proves to studio executives that he doesn't need a massive CGI spectacle to generate a phenomenal return on investment.
And it wasn't just a financial triumph either, it was a critical one. The critical consensus repeatedly noted that he walked this incredibly difficult tonal tightrope.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense when you look at the mechanics of a romantic black comedy.
It's a tough genre.
It really is. You have to balance genuine, believable romantic chemistry with dark, cynical, often really uncomfortable humor. If you lean too far into the romance, it just becomes a standard rom-com. But if you lean too far into the darkness, the audience completely loses empathy for the characters.
Right. And succeeding in that specific genre, especially opposite a powerhouse performer like Zendaya, it really solidified his status as an elite character actor.
Oh, for sure. It requires an extraordinary amount of nuance and timing and restraint. And when an actor can carry a film that relies entirely on performance rather than massive set pieces, their perceived value in the industry shifts entirely. They're no longer viewed as just a face on a poster, you know? They're viewed as the primary mechanism for the film's success.
But here's the thing. Starring in these indie hits only solves half the problem.
Okay, how so?
If you are just acting in front of the camera, you are ultimately still an employee of the studio. You're showing up, hitting your marks, collecting a check, and going home. To truly build a $100 million empire, you have to own the underlying asset.
Ah, right. Which brings us to his upcoming September 2026 release, Primetime.
Exactly. Primetime perfectly illustrates this next phase of his evolution. It's a dark, journalistic crime thriller, and it's heavily inspired by the early 2000s sting operations of Dateline NBC.
Oh man, that era of television is such a fascinating cultural touchstone to pull from. Like before social media, those sting operations were peak voyeurism.
Oh yeah, pure anxiety television.
Totally. The hidden cameras, the grainy footage, those real-time, unpolished confrontations with predators, it was visceral and deeply unsettling. So translating that specific, gritty aesthetic into a modern, high-end, dark thriller is a brilliant creative swing.
It really captures a very specific type of tension that audiences just inherently recognize. But what makes Primetime exceptionally significant to our analysis today is the business machinery operating beneath the surface.
Right.
Because he is not just starring in this film, he is fully producing it through his own production company, Icky and Neo Arlo, working alongside A24.
And this is where the mechanics of Hollywood economics really come into play. By transitioning into a producer role, he is shifting from an employee to a stakeholder.
Yes.
Instead of demanding a massive, guaranteed upfront salary, which would instantly inflate the budget of an independent film and make it way harder to turn a profit, he is securing equity. He is actively participating in the back-end profits.
And to understand how lucrative this is, we have to look at how film financing actually works.
Break it down for us.
Typically, an actor takes their, quote, say $10 or $15 million, and the moment the film wraps, their financial involvement is largely over.
I got paid, they're done.
Right. But when you are a producer with equity, you might take a fraction of your usual fee, or even work for minimum union scale in exchange for what is known as first dollar gross, or a significant percentage of the net profits.
Wow.
So if the movie becomes a sleeper hit, your earning potential is theoretically limitless.
Yeah.
That back-end equity is the exact engine rapidly expanding that $100 million portfolio. He owns a piece of the intellectual property itself.
Okay, well, let me push back on this strategy for a moment.
Sure.
Because the math in the back end sounds fantastic when a movie succeeds, but it is inherently precarious. Like whenever I hear about actors waiving their guaranteed upfront fees for a percentage of the profits on an indie movie, it raises a massive red flag for me.
That's fair.
If you transition to a producer and take back-end points on a modest budget indie film, aren't you taking on an enormous financial risk?
It is a risk, yeah.
What if Primetime just flops at the box office? What if it doesn't make a single dime in profit? You have essentially worked for months for free while still having to pay the overhead costs of running your own production company. how do you protect yourself from total financial instability if one or two of these risky indie projects completely tank?
That is the crucial vulnerability of the independent film model. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And addressing it brings us to the absolute genius of his career architecture.
Okay, I'm listening.
He mitigates that indie film risk entirely through a strategy of duality.
Duality.
Right. He does not rely solely on the independent sphere to keep the lights on. While he champions avant-garde, independent cinema on one side, he deliberately and simultaneously anchors some of the most lucrative, globally recognized franchises on the planet on the other side.
Ah, so he is consciously playing both sides of the board.
He is. This dual strategy ensures consistent, massive paydays while keeping his artistic credibility completely intact. He figured out how to exist in two completely different Hollywood ecosystems without either one compromising the other.
That's wild.
And we can actually see this duality perfectly captured in transition if we look at a project like Mickey 17.
Oh, the film directed by Bong Joon-ho that hit cinemas back in March 2025.
Yes, Mickey 17 is a bizarre, high-budget sci-fi reincarnation comedy.
So good.
It is. And it is the literal bridge between his two worlds. Because on one hand, you have the immense financial backing, the massive marketing budget, and the global scale of a major studio tentpole.
Right.
But on the other hand, it is helmed by Bong Joon-ho, who is a fiercely original visionary auteur. So he managed to merge commercial scale with artistic prestige in a single project.
And that bridge leads us straight into the shadows of Gotham. Because the ultimate safety net, the absolute foundation of this duality strategy, is his return to the Batman franchise.
Oh, absolutely.
The internet absolutely erupted just a few days ago over director Matt Reeves releasing the very first official camera tests for the Batman Part 2, which is officially slated for an October 2027 theatrical release.
The global reaction to those camera tests highlights exactly why this franchise is the cornerstone of his financial security.
I mean, the leaked images showed a radically different aesthetic than the first film.
Completely different.
Yeah, we're looking at a totally snow-covered Gotham City. And it wasn't just the cityscapes. The leak showed a newly upgraded, fully winterized Batmobile equipped with heavy-duty snow tires.
It looked amazing.
The level of world building is incredible. But looking at it through a strategic lens, this visual departure is actually vital for audience retention.
How so?
Well, we're in a cinematic landscape suffering from massive superhero fatigue, right? Where every film seems to end with a generic CGI skybeam over a gray city.
Right, it gets very repetitive.
Exactly. So injecting a localized, practical, almost noir thriller element like a blizzard, it completely shifts the genre. It signals to the audience that this isn't just another theme park ride, it's a prestige crime thriller that just happens to feature a superhero.
And it elevates the material, which maintains his credibility. But underneath that artistic hype is a very cold, calculated business reality.
The paycheck.
The paycheck. By reprising his role as Bruce Wayne, he guarantees himself a foundational blockbuster salary. We are talking about an upfront fee, combined with massive box office bonuses that alters the entire financial trajectory of a production company.
Right. So if we look at his career as like an investment portfolio, the Batman is his blue chip index fund.
I love that analogy.
It is the rock-solid asset that guarantees massive, reliable returns regardless of minor market fluctuations. And because he has that guaranteed financial foundation, his production company, Icky Inio Arlo, can operate like an aggressive angel investor.
Yes.
He has the absolute freedom to take wild, high-risk, high-reward swings on experimental projects like the drama and Primetime without ever losing a minute of sleep over a potential box office failure.
Because the financial security provided by Bruce Wayne is precisely what affords him absolute creative freedom on an A24 set.
Well, he never has to compromise his artistic vision or take a role he doesn't believe in just to pay the bills. Because his mortgage and the substantial overhead for his production staff is being comfortably covered by a global superhero franchise. The blockbuster literally subsidizes the art.
Which is incredible. And this brings us to the ultimate takeaway for this deep dive. Because you might be wondering, why does a Hollywood actor's production slate or the box office returns of an A24 indie matter to you listening to this right now?
Well, right, because when we pull back from the specifics of the film industry, this is a profound lesson in the power of an unyielding dual strategy.
Yeah.
He achieved both immense artistic credibility and extraordinary wealth, not by forcing himself to choose between art and commerce, which is what we're usually told to do, right?
Yeah.
In most industries, we are told we have to pick a lane.
You're either the creative purist or you are the corporate sellout.
Exactly. And he rejected that false dichotomy entirely.
He didn't compromise one for the other. No. He made the commercial machinery actively fund his most ambitious creative visions. He understood that you don't have to reject the mainstream to be a true artist. You can leverage it.
Leverage it, yeah.
You can use the massive, reliable income of the commercial world to build a fortress around your creative endeavors, protecting them from the pressures of having to be immediately profitable.
Which leaves us with a really important thought to end on today, because we all face our own versions of typecasting in our lives and our careers.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe it's how your colleagues view you at work based on a project you completed, like 5 years ago. Or maybe it's a highly specific, very narrow set of skills you are known for, and you feel totally boxed in by the expectations of the people around you.
We all get categorized. People just find it easier to deal with us when they can put us in a clearly defined box.
Right.
And breaking out of those categories and forcing people to see you in a new light, it requires strategic leverage. You can't just quit your job and hope people suddenly respect your new direction. You have to fund the transition.
Yeah, you have to fund the transition. So consider your own trajectory. If you were handed a role you outgrew, or if you are trying to pivot your own reputation, what is the underlying financial engine that will allow you to take that risk?
What's your Batman?
Exactly. Do you have your own Batman paying the bills? Do you have that foundational, reliable security in your life, whether it's a stable day job, a reliable freelance client, or a core skill set that could afford you the absolute freedom to build your own avant-garde A24 empire on the side without the fear of financial ruin?
Architecting your own dual strategy. Using your current reality to fund your ultimate reinvention. That is the key to breaking out of the box the world puts you in.
It is something to seriously mull over as you navigate your own career milestones. Thanks for diving deep with us today.